Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to another week of the wrap up with myself, Jamie Talks, here on the West Ham Network. Thanks to the guys again for having me on. Wow, what a week it's been. Last time we found ourselves sitting was after a 6-0 defeat to Arsenal, and we find ourselves sitting here after another away loss to Nottingham Forest, who looked the much better side on the day. Just to start this off, guys, what were your thoughts on the game? Let's try and keep away from all the David Moyes in or out chat, because that's all this seems to be at the moment. That's all anyone wants to talk about. Is David Moyes going to be here at the end of the season? Let's talk about something different for once. Now, we're going to be building up the Brentford game ahead of next Monday, which is obviously a huge win now. Well, a huge must-win game. But in the meantime, just to start things off, guys, with the next Europa League draw being this Friday, it would be interesting to see where we are going to, get. So who we draw in the next round, I should say. So what's your dream European away day in the next round of the Europa League? Now, that's a good way to start it, my friend. AC Milan, West Ham faithful coming in strong. That's the dream one, isn't it? That is the dream tie. I mean, I'm just gonna get the rest of the teams up in the that are playing on tomorrow, essentially for the next round. Let's bring these teams up to see who it actually could be. Evening, Mark. How you doing, mate? How's your week going? Here we go. Yeah, so we look at obviously the rest of these teams playing here. So you look at some of the potential games we could have in the next round, and I find myself torn. I really do. Do I want an AC Milan like you suggested there, or do we want one of the lower tier sides so we have more kind of help of going further in the in the tournament? But just to look at this, obviously we've got Freiburg. These are all the potential teams, all the potential teams. Some of these teams are losing after one game, but stranger things have happened in Europe and whatnot. So these are the potential kind of destinations for our next European games. So we've got Freiburg and Lens, we've got Rennes, Milan, Toulouse, Benfica, Karabag, Braga, Sparta Prague, Galatasaray, Sporting, Young Boys, Marseille, Shakhtar Donetsk, Roma, and Feyenoord. Wow. The draw is this Friday, my friend. I believe it'll be it's around midday. Usually it's around then. All right, so we got a few in here already, guys. We've got AC Milan coming in. We got Benfica coming in here. We got the Kretinsky Derby. Exactly that, the Kretinsky Derby, my friend. Wow. All I want to know. Hello, Barry. How you doing, mate? Here we go. Graham. I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest with you, mate, but let's get into this. So, yeah, I think we saw this last year. We can really hope that Europe is kind of the savior for our year. Obviously, we're without a win in professional football so far this year. The WSL, team are doing very well, so shout out to them, of course, but the men's side haven't won a game in 2024. So let's just hope that Europe can be, our saving grace and really start kicking the team on. I know we all think back to last year, of course, when the league form was in the drain, and there were points where we were in a relegation battle, but it was really the European form that kind of spurred us on to the final, and obviously we ended up winning it. Let's not talk about. I've seen so many things. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've seen so many different arguments this week from people talking about David Moyes and talking about his achievements and the European Cup and winning that, and whether it's even an achievement in the first place. And these are all from just West Ham fans. But I think, looking at the teams that are still in this tournament, you got teams like Roma, you got teams like Milan. Imagine that West Ham away at Milan. The San Siro, that's outrageous. That'd be incredible. Galatasaray, Turkish fans are some of those, passionate fans across the world. Imagine that. But I think you've nailed it right there, mate. Mark, I could have said it better myself. I think we saw it last year, when we were coming into, we were coming into much more form in Europe than we were comparatively to the league. And again, we were at points in a relegation battle and then also progressing through Europe next year. So, I'm with you as well, mate. I think, Milan would be unreal. Could give the fan base a massive boost. And I'll be honest with you, mate, I think the fan base needs it. It's really hard coming on here and talking to you guys every week. You only have to post one bit of kind of content online, and the whole regardless of what it's about, regardless of West Ham win, lose or draw, the whole discourse has to be about David Moyes and if David Moyes has a job or not. So I think West Ham fans, we need something else to talk about other than David Moyes, because currently the guy's in a job. We need to stop talking about if he's getting a contract extension or not, because that's in the future. We need to stop talking about if he's going to get a contract extension, if he's going to get sacked, if he's going to do that. It's all just noise. You know, he's still at the football club right now, and we can't control that. You know, obviously fans are unhappy, but the West Ham fan base needs something else to talk about, because all we want to talk about right now is either players we didn't sign in January, losing games, or David Moyes being a manager, 100%. Victor coming in saying, I think we can win. Is that I think we can or I think we can't win the European Cup? It's an interesting one, Victor. I'll be honest with you, mate. I think last year, obviously, we were the favourites from the start. But this year, you got some real kind of European powerhouse teams. And maybe they're not at the level they once were, but there's some serious European sides in there. I'm talking, you know, Milan, Marseille, Shakhtar have been a Champions League team over the last 10 years. You know, Roma, Galatasaray, lots of big clubs on the European stage. You know, even Sporting, Benfica. You know, some of these players that are really going to look to upset some teams. So I'm so excited for the European games. I really am. I think the players will lift themselves for different reasons. You could be right there, mate. You could be right. I'd like to see us get Tuchel and try and get back to a winning team, and being Tim's mate should be good. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not one of those fans that's going to talk about David Moyes leaving or anything like that. I don't see much use in talking about it. But if you talk about managers that are some of the best in the world, I know his stock has somewhat fallen since being at Bayern Munich. Obviously, they very much struggled over the line last year with the last kick of the ball. Jamal Musiala won the Bundesliga for them, and it was very much Borussia Dortmund kind of letting themselves down and letting Bayern Munich come back in to win that title. But yeah, it's an interesting one with Thomas Tuchel. We've been linked with him in the past, and interestingly, Tim Steidten, of course, has reached out about working with him before. I believe Tim Steidten was actually due to go to Chelsea before Tuchel was actually sacked at Chelsea and went on to different parts of his career, and then that actually stopped his move. So for sure, it seems like Tim Steidten's a big fan of Thomas Tuchel. I believe Thomas Tuchel's turned us down in the past, and will he want to go from winning the Champions League with Chelsea, winning leagues with Bayern Munich, and then, you could say maybe taking a step down at West Ham? It'll be an interesting one for sure. But, it's very interesting to be linked with these kind of caliber of managers. But, we've still got a manager for now. So let's just hope David Moyes can turn it around at least anyway. The fact that those teams are Europa League, the fact that those teams are in the Europa League means they finished third in the UCL group, so can't be feared. Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly that. The biggest name, of course, is Milan, but then you've got Roma, who, of course, last year got to the final of the Europa League, obviously winning the Conference League the year before that. So they've got serious pedigree. Of course, Jose Mourinho is no longer at the club, but there's some serious sides still left in Europe, and I'll be super interested to see who we're going to get on Friday. Yeah, I'm buzzing for it. I'm hoping to do the away day as well with the club. So, imagine an away day at the San Siro. That's the kind of thing that, you dream of as a kid, and you never thought I would have it as a West Ham fan. But we're now in a position where we could potentially have an away day at the San Siro. It's ridiculous. Going to watch your team play in Italy? Okay, mate, I'll get some pasta and then watch us beat AC Milan in the San Siro. Shit house football the David Moyes way. Let's do it. Right. Plenty of West Ham managers linked to Lisbon, Slot at Feyenoord. Yep, of course. Come on, we need to see Moyes leave. We thank him for everything, but we need to go in another direction. Barry, mate, I think there's so many fans that are kind of I think with every game that we lose, obviously you get more people that are probably more in favour of David Moyes leaving. I really just don't like talking about that kind of thing a lot of the time, because I just think, not because I'm out of support for David Moyes or of the club or anything, or I want to be on the fence. I just don't see what the point in speculating about the manager is. And there's David Moyes isn't the only David Moyes getting some games tactically wrong. Is not the only issue at the football club right now. And I think isolating it on a single man, I think it's just a bit we just can't keep doing it. And I just don't want to keep talking about David Moyes. Last two shows have been hijacked by Moyes chat all night. But yeah. Can West Ham stand against the like of Leverkusen if they fail to beat Forest? Hey, mate, stranger things have happened in Europe. They really have. You seen we've got Michael Oliver in VAR on Monday. Jeez, that's if we create any chances. It does not matter. Moyes will get another contract. What's the point? I don't know if you're right there, Richard, mate. I really don't. I think it's, the board are going to be aware of the fan unrest. They're going to be aware of the mass exodus of fans that left the last home game against Arsenal. I don't think it's as cut and dry as you think. I don't think David Moyes is guaranteed a contract extension, So yeah, it's an interesting one. We need to change the captain. He's never fit and not a leader. Edson Alvarez, for me, that would give the team a lift. Yeah, I think there's a couple of candidates in there who are probably going to take the captaincy off Kurt Zouma. In the long run, the main guy for me is probably James Ward-Prowse, because I think he is the natural born leader. He's obviously been a captain of Southampton for many, many, many years. He's clearly a leader already inside the dressing room, even though he's been at the club a short while. But of course, Edson Alvarez is. I've said this before on the shows, guys, and I'm sure you've heard me say it. But like Edson Alvarez is like rapidly becoming a lot of players, a lot of West Ham fans' favourite player, because he has that typical kind of South American energy and spirit where he plays the game with his heart on the sleeve. He's up for it. He really puts everything he can into the game. So when you see that kind of energy, you want to see players kind of lead from the front. So yeah, and he clearly holds himself in a certain type of way. There is an issue a little bit with his kind of like discipline record. I think he gets yellow cards a little bit too easy, but you do find that with South American players at the time. So if he can, limit that a little bit, then I think we're in for, a decent player. Right, let's have a look. We're going to lose Dagenham game. Going to be better on Sunday. If it's not just getting a few things wrong, there's a list longer than my arm. Do we want boring football, lose to everyone, or get someone who will play better football, maybe actually care about the fans? Barry, mate, for everything that David Moyes has got wrong, he's also got a hell of a lot right. And I'm not sitting here being a David Moyes apologist. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with you, my friend. I just don't want to sit here and talk about David Moyes, should he be sacked or not, because it doesn't change anything. We only have the facts, and that David Moyes is currently our manager. Until the point that he isn't, there's not really much point shouting about it on the internet every single day. And that's all anyone wants to do. I know we're all passionate fans, want to see our club getting back to winning ways, but literally a month ago, not a month ago now, sorry, a couple of months ago, we were sixth in the league, comfortable. We're still ninth in the league. It's not the worst it's ever been as a West Ham fan. I'm old enough to have seen many, many bad times, and I wouldn't say we're there yet. The stats aren't good, and we haven't been very good. And, clearly things do need to change in terms of whether that's direction or whatnot. But I don't think sitting here and talking about David Moyes, should he be sacked for the next hour is going to change anything, We do that every single week. Every time you log on to Twitter, there's some fan that's saying this, and this is either Moyes for or Moyes out. I'm a guy that deals with the facts. I really am. And you've got some salient points there. You're right in many ways, but there's also, I don't think it's as cut and dry and black and white as you are making it, my friend. I do think James Ward-Prowse should get the armband. He's not going anywhere, and he's a natural leader. Yeah, of course, mate. I couldn't agree anymore. I think James Ward-Prowse obviously is a born leader. I would have been tempted to give him the captaincy in the summer, actually, when we signed him. But obviously, as a new player coming into the club, you can understand why they kind of made that decision. Kurt Zouma had a stellar season for us last year. You could say his injury record has always been on, he always picks up little niggles here and there. But, this year, obviously, he's had good games and also had bad moments. So, there would have been a reason why Kurt Zouma was made the captain. He's clearly got some sort of resilience. He just needs to find his form and find that quick, I should say. We should have brought in more new players, but we brought one twinkle toes Phillips who can't even pass a ball. Victor, mate. Victor, I'm sorry, but that is absolute nonsense, my friend. Calvin Phillips is a genuine quality football player. He's not shown it in a West Ham shirt yet, but he is a very good football player. When you get the world's best managers coming out like Pep Guardiola and saying Calvin Phillips is a better passer of the ball than Rodri, you listen to those kind of opinions. And we've seen it before. We have to go back a while. Granted, in the England Euros, he was voted our best player. He was one of the players of the tournament. At Leeds, he single-handedly kept him in the league. Then the next year got injured. They went down. He barely played. He didn't play as much as he could. It's a great signing for us. He got sent off. It's unfortunate. You can see he's a player that hasn't played football in a long way, but to start doubting the quality of the player because he hasn't played football in 18 months, I was just not on board with that, mate. Moyes, clearly didn't fancy Curtis Skipper. He offered Maguire the captaincy as a sweetener to come to the club. They should have given it to JWP. You might have a point there. Around the time, actually, Harry Maguire would have been perfect for us. I was very much an advocate for that move, 100%. It's a shame we didn't get him because we've seen him have a fairly strong season with Man United. He even got Player of the Month in the Premier League on one of those months. So, yeah, football's a game of fine margins. And obviously, Harry Maguire wanted to stay at Man United, fight for his spot. And, as much as there's been low moments for them, Man United are doing quite well now. And he's going to be an important player for them this season. Ogbonna's out of contract the end of the year, my friend. I believe there's an option to extend it by a further year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's a lot of players out of contract at the end of the year, like Ben Johnson, Aaron Cresswell, Ogbonna's, lots of kind of staples of the side who have been there for a very, very long time. So it'll be interesting to see who stays here and who goes. I would like to know at some point if we're going to keep Phillips long term or is he going to be a bargain tool for Paquetá to City? That's an interesting one. I think, obviously, Paquetá in the summer, he has his release clause activated in the summer. So I think for 85 million, it becomes available for sides in the league. So I don't think a Calvin Phillips kind of will be any sort of make weight because the fee will just be there. And he'll be available for that fee. And I imagine West Ham will stick to their guns if they even want to entertain that kind of thing. I can't see him being used as a sweetener. I can't recall, but was there an option to buy for West Ham in the Phillips deal? I can't even remember. I don't know if there was an obligation or if there was a mandatory. I can't actually remember the deal. It's been such a shocking year for football, And also, FFP is on them for sure. Who's to say he'll even go to Man City? Obviously, we all forget about it. He's got the betting case that is kind of surrounding him at the moment. We've just gone very quiet and obviously put a scuppering to the move in the summer. So who's to suggest that he'll even be able to go at the end of the year? It's just one of them things. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think anything's guaranteed yet. Calvin Phillips, total Premier League appearances, 65 still unproven in my opinion. Thomas, you need to stop listening to TalkSport. That's exactly what TalkSport will tell you. That's what Graham Souness, you get your opinions from Graham Souness. Fair enough. Graham Souness, illustrious career, but there's a reason he's not on Sky Sports anymore. Some of his opinions are make him a dinosaur 100%. Anyone with a set of eyes can see Calvin Phillips is a good football player. Graham Souness is just Graham Souness, my friend. At the moment, they can. Oh, there we go. Diaz has actually scored. Was thinking they had Antonio disguise for a while there. If we make JWP captain, do you think you actually get a free kick over a defensive wall? Problem is, he's getting them over the wall at the moment. They're just not on target. But it will happen. And when it happens, it will be like London buses, no doubt. There we go. On a positive note, can we appreciate how good Areola has been in a West Ham shirt? Yeah, mate, he's been class. I think there's always a problem when your goalkeeper is looking at your best player, and I think this year he's probably been our best player. Even in games where he's conceded 6, he's probably been one of the only players where he can come up with his head kind of held high because he's not making many mistakes and he's making big saves in big moments. Areola's obviously been great. I think we're one of the few teams in the league actually that has 2 goalkeepers that are actually dependable. So obviously I think we all want to see Areola as the number 1 now just because of the age of Fabianski and whatnot. But I think if we see Fabianski on goal, I don't necessarily go into the game, with any more concerns than what I would. I think they're both kind of good level keepers for a Premier League side, and that's actually rare for Premier League teams in my opinion. Interestingly, I don't think there was an option for Phillips. Was one of them to see how he gets on playing for so long. Areola, Hammer of the Year. Would be unfair to recall Marshall. He won't get in the team. Aguirre H thought he could be Hammer of the Year after Brighton away last year. Right, we went over this at the start, but let's have a little chat about this. Obviously, David Moyes is the manager of the football club. And until he's anything else, he is the manager of the football club. But when we talk about the potential next steps, whether that's a contract extension with David Moyes or if that's another manager coming in, you look at the names that are being linked with the club, you can see how the club's going in a good direction. Because if you can, guys, go back and see the managers we were linked with before David Moyes. So I think it shows you where the club was and certainly now is. It's definitely gone in an upward trajectory. The last couple of months have been poor, of course, but the club in general have gone up. And obviously we spent a lot of money and whatnot. We've kind of solidified ourselves as like a European team with 3 years in it. But yeah, seeing managers like Thomas Tuchel kind of linked with a football club is certainly interesting. You do have to ask if he'd be interested in joining the club, of course, because, he's gone from winning the Champions League with Chelsea. He's been at some of the biggest clubs in Europe. It was at PSG. Then he went to Chelsea, won the Champions League there, went to Bayern Munich. They struggled to get the Bundesliga last year, but did it with the last kick of the game when Musiala scored. And then this year, obviously, they're off it, aren't they? They just got battered by Leverkusen. And obviously, the suggestions around the club is that he won't be there at the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see where his next step is. I don't know if he'd take a step down. I don't know if he'd take a step down to a West Ham, because we're not playing Champions League football. But the one thing that could help us, of course, and it will be vital keeping like a Tim Starton at the club is, I said this just at the start, in case anyone said it, I'll say it one more time just so everyone knows. So Tim Starton wanted to join Chelsea when Thomas Tuchel was in charge there. And Thomas Tuchel was obviously sacked before going to Bayern Munich. And that put a stop to the Tim Starton deal going to Chelsea. So the pair clearly have history. Tim Starton's obviously voiced a lot of, interest in working alongside him in the past. So that might help us. And of course, the one thing that could help us, of course, is like in terms of how the wage structuring is set up for managers in the Bundesliga. It's very much set up in a certain type of way where managers are quite easy to get out of their teams fairly easy. So without much kind of financial troubles, like, you'd have to buy managers out, and like, because of how the ownership system is set up, it's quite easy for managers to leave their football club. So it'll be an interesting one. But seeing Champions League winning managers linked to your football club is super interesting for sure. I've seen Jose Mourinho floating around as well. I think that would be an interesting one. Of course, he always brings like a period of success, but then a period of chaos. And one question I'd say to you guys, would you take a year of winning a trophy and then another year of just going straight back down? Because that's the normal West Ham way. Who knows? Here we go. Been thinking about possible managers. Leroy Rosenior. Yeah, great coach. Having a good career so far. Obviously started with Wayne Rooney at Derby, and now he's gone on to be his own manager elsewhere. He's looks a solid coach. Michael Carrick. I went to Stamford Bridge recently and saw Middlesbrough lose to Chelsea. And although they lost 6-1 on the night, I believe it was either 6-0 or 6-1. The way they play football is genuinely refreshing on the eye. So that's the kind of football that I think is going to get a lot of West Ham fans on side. And even when I watch them, and you only have to watch Middlesbrough in the Championship, you can see the way that they play football, and it's an attractive way. So I think that would obviously appeal to a lot of managers. I think Gary O'Neill, of course, is surprising a lot of people. Had a great season last year at Bournemouth. I think for a lot of rival fans of Bournemouth, they were kind of surprised when he was sacked. But I think Bournemouth fans kind of expected it in a way. And this year, he's obviously built on that with some strong form in Wolves, and is doing quite well. So, yeah, all solid options for now. Of course, David Moyes is still the manager of the football club. So I think until that point, it's not really we shouldn't really talk about next managers. But seeing all these kind of names linked with us is super interesting, because I implore you guys, go back and look at the managers we were linked with before David Moyes. There's some serious rogue names on there, and they wouldn't have done a better job than David Moyes. I'll tell you that for free. Here we go. Right. Let's keep going through here. I want Everton to get relegated, then they won't be able to afford their new stadium. Imagine that. Will Still's the romantic one, isn't it? It's the obviously he's a West Ham fan. He's got a really interesting career. Obviously came through playing Football Manager. Everyone knows his story by now. Played Football Manager as a kid, then got experience in the actual game, then got put in charge of Belgium sides, went into Ligue 1 in France, took over the side there, and yeah, he was managing them when he didn't even have the qualifications. The club was paying fines every week. It was crazy, but obviously he's qualified now. It'll be interesting to see if he would come to West Ham. He said it on TalkSport before, so interesting one. Right, let's get into this. Right, let's get to the show. I'm just bringing up my notes, guys. Give me 1 second. Right. Okay. Yeah. So we've spoken about Kurt Zouma and how he's the current manager, current captain. Kurt Zouma's form over the last couple of games has been worrying, of course. He has, I think, more often than not, his West Ham career could be summed up by a lot of injuries, unfortunately. And I think that's kind of consistent across his career. But when fit, generally he is a good Premier League centre-back, and he has always done all right for us. But yeah, last couple of games, he's looked a bit shaky, and I think like a period out of the side might help him. Who would I bring in as a captain in his stead? Maybe a James Ward-Prowse, like I've said in the past, or some more senior players in the team. I'm not quite sure. Right, here we go. Let me put some comments in the chat for you. Here we go. All right. Here we go, guys. So, what are your predictions ahead of the Brentford game next week? So we are the Monday night kickoff next week, which will be an interesting one. There's no Lucas Paquetá still. There's rumours around the club that he won't be back for another couple of weeks. And the real kind of glaring issue that West Ham are missing at the moment is obviously some serious creativity in our midfield. We're not really creating chances. We're not really troubling sides. And that Nottingham Forest game on the weekend, the only real shot I can remember was the Calvin Phillips tame shot in the first half, which was kind of like a P-roller into the goalkeeper's hands. So it'll be interesting to see how we play against Brentford, who aren't in the best of form. Of course, they've lost. I think they've won 1 in 5, I believe, but they've lost a couple of games to top sides and whatnot, and they've got genuine quality players like Ivan Toney in their side, so they're going to be super dangerous. But yeah, like I think if we can get a draw out of this game, I think it'll be an important result for us, and I think it could be the kind of catalyst to help us kick on for the season, 100%. I would love to say, Barry says, I would love to say a win, but I think we all know we're going to hold an L again. Tony will have a field day. Ward-Prowse could be a good captain, or Aguerd, that is. Here we go. I just can't see a score. Brentford 3, West Ham 0. Are you a West Ham fan, mate? Come on, mate. Imagine Tony running at Zuma. Hey, Kurt Zuma's had stellar performances before. What I will say is I think a lot of West Ham fans at the start of the season, when we were playing Liverpool, we started Ogbonna, and we saw Ogbonna put in an incredible performance. I think a lot of people would have said the same things about Ogbonna. So, players can have big games, and I don't think we should be writing off Kurt Zouma just yet. I think he has the potential to do the business 100%. But yeah, what are your general predictions for the game at Brentford next week? Of course, as I said, we are yet to win a game this season, and there are some serious worries that a lot of fans have got right now. But again, I think we have the potential and we have the genuine quality in our side to win a game of football. We've seen it numerous times this year. We haven't seen it enough over the last couple of months. But yeah, let's have a look. Let's have a think about it, guys. I'll put another comment in here for you. You take 15th in the league. Obviously, so I kicked off the show with this, guys, and how I was hoping that our form in Europe could drive us forward like it did last year. Last year, obviously, we were in a relegation battle at times, but it was very much like we had the league form and then we had Europe. And in Europe, of course, we were playing lower quality sides, but we were doing the business there. And obviously that helped us push on, instilled a bit of confidence in the players. And they obviously then went on and built on that and stayed in the league and obviously went and did what they did in Europe. What I'd like to know, though, guys, is as I've just put on screen, of course, would you take 15th in the league for a strong run in Europe? Or do you see anything below mid-table or anything below 8th as a complete failure? Let me know in the comments, guys. What's a strong run in Europe? It's a good question, my friend. I think for a club the size of West Ham, I'm a pragmatic football fan. I'm a realistic football fan, and also I'm hopelessly optimistic at times. If West Ham get to the semi-final of the Europa League, we got to it a couple of years ago, but I would like to say the quality of teams in that tournament on that year weren't as high. You look at the final that year, it was Frankfurt and Rangers. not the best European sides. Like, they're not. Like Frankfurt, they did nothing in the Champions League the next year. They didn't upset anyone at all. But you look at the teams that are still in this tournament. There's some genuine top level sides. I'm talking Leverkusen, I'm talking Liverpool, and that's without talking about the potential Champions League sides that could come into it after they get their second game on Thursday. But even like a Roma who got to the final last year, or a Feyenoord, they're drawing as well. You've got Shakhtar Donetsk, Marseille, you've got Benfica, Galatasaray, Braga, Milan, Rennes, Sporting, all sides with genuine European pedigree. They might not have the best sides in their history, but what they do have is they have a lot of players that play in Europe. And Milan are coming down from the Champions League and whatnot, but you could say they're one of the favourites to win the tournament now, because they'd give Liverpool a game on their day for sure. Liverpool are a much better side, of course. Bayer Leverkusen is in this tournament. When you look at the quality of the sides in there, a strong run in Europe, you can't say West Ham are anywhere near the favourites. We're not. If we got would you guys take a semi-final and then a mid-table? Would you put all your eggs into the European basket and take a chance at another European glory? Maybe we lose in the semi-finals, maybe we lose in the quarters, maybe we lose in the final. Who knows? Would you take that for the journey, the experience of the away games and whatnot, or would you rather us switch to our league form, get us back to sixth in the league? We're never going to finish sixth in the league. What do you guys think? Happy Hammerette comes in with Europe is why Moyes is still here, I believe. Had we been out of the last round, I think he'd been sacked already. How can we have a strong run in Europe when we're getting battered everywhere we go? Barry, mate, were you watching West Ham last year? Because we lost big games in the league last year and we're going and winning away in Europe, as a West Ham fan, you shouldn't be surprised to see West Ham get battered. We've seen many over the years. Obviously, we don't want to see West Ham lose 6-0 to Arsenal. We don't want to see us lose 2-0 away to Nottingham Forest. And clearly, the team isn't performing as well as it could do. But I think Europe could be the real opportunity for West Ham to kind of kick on and create some kind of confidence back in the players. And the only thing that really worries me is the squad depth. And I think being able to perform at the highest level in 2 different tournaments is going to be a lot for the amount of players that we got, especially when you're going into league games at the moment with 4 relatively unproven young players who we'd all love to see get a chance, but currently they're not. Right. Can we win the Europa League again? Well, that's the golden ticket question, mate. I think, I just said it a moment ago. A couple of years ago, we were in the Europa League semi-finals, and the quality of the sides in that tournament compared to now are just, it's cut and dry. It's so much different. There's 3 better sides off the top of my head that are all better sides than us. Milan are a better side than us, Liverpool are a better side than us, and Bayer Leverkusen are a better side than us. They're all Champions League quality teams. You got to remember that Milan were in a group of death in the Champions League. It was them, Dortmund, PSG, and Newcastle. And Newcastle and Milan obviously all crashed out. It's those sides are genuine quality. If we got to the semi-final of the Europa League this year, it might upset a few of you guys, but that's an incredible season. It shouldn't be a surprise for us to go out in the semi-finals. We all want to see us win it 100%, but I've got much less confidence this year than what we did a couple of years ago. Obviously, it was a missed opportunity. We lost to Frankfurt. We're a better side than Frankfurt. We're a better side than Rangers, 100%, so it's an interesting one. Jamie, if Liverpool win the Cup this weekend, I think the team will have to aim for 8th. No guarantee in Europe, but I'll be happy for a day out in May. 100%, mate. An away day in Dublin. Can you imagine? Just think about this, if you have an away day at San Siro, let's just say you get through that. Then the next one, you might be in Rome. Then you might be in, you might be away in Leverkusen. Come on, some of these days. Get to the final, Dublin. Away day in Dublin. I'm confident. West Ham fans will, we will lose West Ham fans in Dublin because there'll be too much Guinness. You know what I mean? Galatasaray as well. I didn't even mention Galatasaray. It's ridiculous. If we win the Europa League with our form, then you can have a statue. Right. Okay, guys, just to wrap this up for the very last time, I'm going to make this quick because I've been rabbiting on for too long. Just to shout a few of you guys out in the comments. If we can get back to effective counter-attacking like against Brighton away, then could go far in Europe. But Moyes needs to play players in the correct positions. Do you know what, mate? Like, you're right there. Like, West Ham have an effective way of playing football. Hasn't worked over the last couple of months, of course. But, you know, in European football, anything can happen. You know, anything can happen. It's knockout football. And West Ham can sneak a goal. We've seen that. You know, we've seen us have less than 30% possession on multiple occasions this year and play sides much better than us and sneak a win. So, you know, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I started off the show with this, guys. I just want to know. Hang on, here we go. Serious question. As a West Ham United fan, do you want next season Moyes or Stein in charge? I'd rather have David Moyes in charge of the team than Tim Stein. Tim Stein isn't a football manager. I'm assuming you're meaning like Tim Stein in charge of, you know, like transfers, and he wants like you want more of a coach in the club. I've mentioned it earlier in the stream, of course. Like all West Ham fans really want to talk about at the moment is David Moyes, whether he's got a job or not. And David Moyes is still employed by the club. And me sitting here, I'll argue with you guys saying if I'm Moyes in or Moyes out, isn't going to change that. Till David Moyes isn't at the club anymore, there's really not much point us constantly talking about this, because you go on social media, you listen to TalkSport, you listen to any sort of like news broadcast. If they ever talk about West Ham, all they want to talk about, whether it's win, lose or draw, is David Moyes in or out. And I was on TalkSport last week and I did the exact same thing. So if you want my opinion on David Moyes, it is on TalkSport. You can find it on my Twitter down here. Jamie Talks on all social platforms. Yeah, we don't want to see our side losing big games. That's it. That, you know, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. But we still have the opportunity for a very, very strong European campaign. And some of the teams in it this year they're the romantic legacy sides. Can you imagine West Ham fans away in Rome, Italy, Galatasaray, Marseille, you know, Braga, Benfica, Liverpool even, you know, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that with the final being in Dublin? It's outrageous. It's like you can't write that. It's the kind of thing that you see in movies and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know if I'd want AC Milan straight away. I'd take like, you know, like a Feyenoord or a Karabag or I don't know, maybe like a Sparta Prague. So you get the Krasinski derby. I'd take that in the next round, and then maybe the one after that, take a European superpower. That would be class. But yeah, until then, guys, it's been great to speak to you again. I'm Jamie Talks. Of course, you can find me on all my socials down there. Huge game against Brentford next week. Let's really hope the team can turn it around and we can, you know, create some serious confidence to bring it back into the boys and get us talking about something else other than David Moyes. And yeah, in the meantime, guys, I've been Jamie Talks. This is the wrap up on the West Ham Network. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next week, 9 p.m. Nice one.